Innovation, imagination, wonder. These are just some of the words used to describe Dr. Harvey Passes. Dr. Passes explores interesting people and ideas that will stimulate you. He questions the people who develop, create, and employ novel concepts in business and everyday lives. He especially loves to speak with successful people. How did they do it? How can you do it too? So let's join Dr. Harvey Passes in his quest of wonder and curiosity as we watch Dr. Harvey Passes Presents.
I love bringing to you interesting things, and we're going to do it again. This show gives me the opportunity to meet fascinating, interesting people who do things that, well, I'm interested in. Things that I want to question, I want to learn, so that I can have a better understanding of how things work. And you know what? I know you think the exact same way. So wouldn't it be really wonderful if you had an opportunity to speak to a judge about what goes on in a court, and then you could learn how things occur? And I found a judge who I thought would make a great guest on the show in a topic, in an area that is just loaded with people visiting that court all the time. So I figured it would be terrific to meet this individual, and you're going to get a chance to meet Judge Julian Eisman. Judge Eisman.
Hi.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down.
Thanks for having me.
And to be on the show, I want to take a moment just to tell people at home watching who you are and why you're here. This wonderful judge, Judge Julian Eisman, is finishing her first term in the Nassau County Family Court. And I asked her to come down because family court is a very big deal. And you're going to learn about it today because so many of us wind up in family court. And you're going to learn a lot about it and how it works, etc. And she's going to give us a great overview on all of this. You're finishing up, I think, your term. It's a 10-year term.
Correct.
Okay, so how much time is left? It sounds like a sentence. How much?
Till the end of the year.
Till the end of the year. Terrific. Okay, so while we've got you here, let's talk and ask you a bunch of questions. Family court. Who goes to family court?
Everybody comes to family court.
Is it criminal activities or what?
It's a quasi-criminal court and a civil court.
No kidding.
Mostly we handle cases that involve custody. Mm-hmm. Many of the litigants are not married to each other. That's why they come to us as opposed to litigating or discussing their custody and visitation issues in the context of a divorce action. Then they would use Supreme Court.
I see.
Or they have a post-judgment matter. They want to change something about their judgment of divorce. Mm-hmm. Or they come to us because they need an order of protection.
Wow. So if an individual has gone to another court to get a divorce, yes, or custody or whatever, can they go to your family court instead of going to the other court, or what is that, Supreme Court? If an order is made by Supreme Court,
they can come to us.
They can come to you then. They don't have to go back to Supreme Court.
They can come seek modification or enforcement or file for a violation if they're not getting visitation when they're supposed to.
I see. Okay.
There are problems.
How many cases do you see a year, approximately?
A year? Oh.
Give me an idea. 10?
I have no less than 25 cases in a trial every single day. So we
25 cases a day.
Right.
Oh my God.
And we are basically one family, one judge court, so that once you have that family for all matters, you continue to have that family.
How do you still have hair in your head? I mean, my God. I mean, I got 2 little kids at home and I'm losing mine, but you go through all these kids and everything else. That's just amazing. Do people need attorneys to go to family court? Can they do it on their own?
We are a court of the people. People can come. There are probation officers that are very, very generous with their time and work with the litigants and help them frame their issues for their respective petitions. Mm-hmm. Many times people do come with wonderful attorneys to help them because it is a court and that can get very difficult. If there are juvenile delinquency charges, then the child would most definitely need representation. We do have assigned counsel, however, for those who are indigent or in need, or if someone is incarcerated and they don't have time to call their attorney and they're sitting in the cells, we will assign them an attorney for that day.
And I like the way you started your answer by saying, Well, we have wonderful attorneys here. I like what you could have said. We have attorneys. We have wonderful. I like that.
Yeah.
See, this is great having a judge come here to explain things as opposed to having an attorney, because they would say maybe we have wonderful judges. I don't know. So if you can't afford an attorney, then so that you said you will make one available.
Yes, we have legal aid attorneys that are
Right.
available,
Right.
and we also have what are called 18B. That's Section 18B of the county law.
Right.
They're subsidized by the state and the county, and they make very, very little money, and I think their hourly fee is up to $45 now, but they are just as qualified as private counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them do have private practice on the side, and they're there to give back.
I've heard the term law guardian.
Yes.
Would you explain what that means?
A law guardian is assigned to represent the children. They are the advocate and the spokesperson for the children during the litigation. They are there to protect them and to advocate and tell the judge what their position is.
So family court is really all about children and
Yes.
everything that orbits them,
Correct.
in essence.
Yes.
So let's continue with that. What's the role of Child Protective Services?
Child Protective Services are used for many different things in the court. If I need a report, I have a family offense petition. There are two people that allegedly had a domestic violence incident in front of the children. Well, that could be tantamount to neglect, or someone comes and files a petition that one parent has sexually assaulted the child. This is really not a family offense. It would eventually become a neglect and abuse petition, but the school psychologist called Child Protective Services, or the school nurse called because they saw marks on the child.
And you got to call.
They're mandated reporters.
Because I know that as a dentist, I'm also part of that. If a patient
Correct.
comes in and I see signs of kind of abuse.
Absolutely. And so they are our eyes and our ears, and they give us reports. They're just terrific, and they help in a backroom kind of way. They actually interview the children and all the parties involved. In this way, we get answers to questions that we normally wouldn't have.
So they call Child Protective Services.
The mandated
Not
reporter.
you, not the court.
No, there's a hotline. They can call Child Protective Service hotline, or we get them involved. I get a petition. Nobody's called Child Protective Services, and I see a case where a child might be endangered. So I assign them a law guardian.
Right.
And we report the matter to CPS and ask for a court-ordered investigation, and they have that for us on our adjourn date.
I don't envy you, by the way. I don't envy you. It's a tough thing to do, what you do. What's the most difficult kind of case that you see that you know when you look at your docket? Is that the right term? You look at your docket and you see cases coming up, you go, oh, God, that's the kind of case that just doesn't really ring my bells.
I think that the hardest case is a neglect and abuse case when you have to, we do in-camera interviews with the children.
Well, I know what that means.
I'm going to explain what it means. It means outside the presence of the attorneys and other than the law guardian and the parents, we interview the children. I usually do it in chambers, occasionally in the courtroom, but I clear the courtroom. And I sit and I ask the child a number of very, very difficult questions. I usually try to get them to relax. I give them a stuffed animal if they're younger to play with, and if they're older, I'll show them pictures. My son plays the guitar. I'll show them pictures. If it's a boy, my son playing the guitar, I'll show them pictures of my dogs, of my kids, and I get them to relax.
Right.
We'll talk about their favorite TV shows or what teams, if they're a Yankee fan or a Met fan, and I try to gain their trust, and then I'll start inquiring as to actually what happened. And
I can see how your heart can go out on that.
Your heart can go out. It could be very rough at times, and sometimes you can see that nothing happened, and one parent coached the child to say bad things about the parent, and everything is a fabrication. And it's hard to fact find when you have a 2 or a 3 or a 4-year-old. So then we rely on other experts, forensics experts, to help us determine whether or not something actually happened.
Leads me to the next question. Why is it, this is my perception, maybe it's reality, the mother usually gets custody of the child? Is that a fact or it's not a fact? And if so, why?
I think it was a fact many years ago, but I think that since the domestic relations law changed, and I think since fathers have their own advocacy groups, and I think fathers' rights have changed. I think since the laws have become neutral as far as gender goes, I think that fathers receive custody, I would say 50% of the time.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Because one would automatically think, well, mother's going to get the kid. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Sometimes moms start out with the younger ones because dads are a little intimidated. Some dads, not all dads.
It is intimidating.
There are some moms that I don't want him to have visitation. It's a newborn, and I'll say, well, really, if you were living together and you wanted to, let's say, go to the gym or go
What would you
get
do?
your nails done,
Yeah.
who would you call your mom to come watch the baby, or would you leave the baby with the child's father, with your husband? And they look and they're like, okay, you're right.
So you got to be thinking, and well, look, I'm sure there isn't anything that in almost 10 years that you haven't heard.
Yeah. Well, I think that, and then every day I'm surprised.
Really?
There are new issues every day.
Now, talking about custody, can a relative ever get custody, or a third party other than the mom and the dad?
Sure.
Explain that.
Okay. A lot of times when Child Protective Services are involved, for instance, they will look for a resource, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, another family member to either be a kinship foster parent or an actual guardian or custodian of the child. Sometimes both parents are drug addicted. The father is not on the scene, or the mother's whereabouts are unknown, and a dad has a problem. And rather than put the child with strangers into foster care, we look for a resource. So
it's so difficult. You got to really get involved. You got 25 cases a day on the average, let's say, and each one has got to really be. It's not just a matter of yes, no, maybe. It's got to be totally investigated and seen. What is a supervised visitation? Explain that.
Okay, in a custody case,
right,
or sometimes in a family offense case, we have supervised visitation because one parent has a substance abuse problem, one parent has excessively corporally punished the child and has not yet gone to an anger management program. The child, if you deprive the child of visitation in its entirety, they feel guilty, they feel responsible, and they love their parent, and they feel that there's something that they've done to push their parent away. So you want to always encourage visitation. It just sometimes has to be with an agency at a supervised setting, or we try to use a relative, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle.
Tough. That's very difficult.
Or let them go to a public place where the child wouldn't be endangered.
You said something. What do you mean by, well, first, corporal punishment, you said before. I know in the extreme what corporal punishment would be. To kill someone. But where does one draw the line? What is considered, I mean, your child is fresh, rude, doesn't it? You say, come here, you miss spanking. Is that corporal punishment?
It is, but it's not excessive. Excessive corporal punishment is...
Blood coming out? Does it cuts? I mean,
unfortunately,
we know the extreme.
There are parents that use, or caretakers that use extension cords. They use whatever they're holding at the particular moment. They will kick a child, pinch a child, pull hair, excessive. Things that you wouldn't want done to yourself, not just a pat on the behind.
Right, a pat on the behind is not a big deal.
Right, or smacking someone's hand away because they're going to put it on a burning stove.
Right.
Excessive corporal punishment causes injury to the child.
Yes. Okay, so I see where you're going with that.
Right.
Well, what happens now? The mother and father, they get divorced, and the person, either the parent that has custody, moves to another state. What do you do? I mean, we have visitation here. How does this work?
It's an excellent question. The law in the state of New York is such that we can't deprive the non-custodial parent of visitation, of meaningful parenting time. If the judgment of divorce was silent and doesn't have a relocation clause, as we've come to know it, meaning that one parent can't move more than
open.
25 miles away, or whatever the attorneys have negotiated on behalf of their clients, we look, and let me say this, that even though there are relocation clauses, some parents move and ignore them and causes the other parent to come into the court and say there's a violation. I've had several trials where the parent has already moved, the child is now becoming established, making new friends, and it becomes very difficult, especially because we have heavy trial schedules that we can't take that case immediately. So your choices are to put the child back with the parent that's here so that it's not harder for them to pull away. Well, your first thing is to try to settle it. Let's try to see what we can do. You moved for a reason, you're here for a reason. Let's see if we can do extensive summer visitation, holiday visitation. And you put the onus on the parent that moved, paying for the airline tickets, doing the driving. You try to resolve it. And then if you can't, then you have to look to see if the non-custodial parent was actively involved in the child's life. Did they come to the recital? Did they come to the chorus concert?
All of a sudden, out of the blue, they decide that they're...
Right.
I see what you're saying.
But some parents are very involved. They're
Right.
at every Little League game as
I
much
do.
as they can. Right. They go to the parent-teacher conferences. They
Right.
go, even though they're not the custodial parent, they are very much involved. Right. Those are the parents that you can't take the child away from and just say to that parent, you saw this child once a week, now you can see them once every 2 months.
What I don't understand is how the law works, because this is a state thing. This isn't a federal concern. So you're in New York. I'm going to ask the question anyway. You know where I'm going. You live in New York State, and the custodial parent moves to California or anywhere, Utah. I mean, are they outside now? Do you have any teeth in what you say? How does this work?
We have what's called the Unified Child Support and Child Custody it's changed, Jurisdictional Enforcement Act, and every state in the union is part of that.
Oh.
It's like a treaty between the states.
Right.
So that our writs are enforceable. They are our orders. If we give an order of temporary custody, if someone disappears with a child overnight, for instance, and the father or the mother comes in and says, my spouse or my ex-spouse took the child, I will sign an order right away giving the parent that's in front of me, temporary custody. And they will go to the state of Florida or California, wherever, and register that order, that judgment, and then go into court in that particular jurisdiction and enforce it. I just had a case where the mother just disappeared overnight and took the child to Nevada. The father came, we issued an order, he took the order to the state of Nevada, registered it, and in the order we said that local law enforcement can help effectuate the change of custody. So he didn't even go to court. He went to the local sheriffs and they helped him.
Oh, okay. Well, you certainly
every state is different.
That's great. At least you can't just say, hey, I'm across state line. You can't do anything to me. That's interesting to note. I'm not going to get into other things like Canada and Mexico, but that's a whole other thing, I would guess. You've used the term earlier, and I want you to explain it. You said forensics or forensic evaluation. What is it, and do you use it?
We use forensic evaluations in a multitude of cases. First of all, we have a liaison from the Department of Mental Health who works with us on a daily basis. So when we have any kind of petition, whether it's a person in need of supervision petition, a child that's out of control, a custody, a family offense petition, we have her come make sure that this person is not a danger to themselves or others. And if we feel that they are, we try to have the person consent to go right away to the NASA University Medical Center for an immediate diagnostic. That's one way we use forensics. Another way we use forensics, we have outpatient mental health evaluations, either through, depending on the type of case, if it's a neglect and abuse case, the Department of Social Services uses their experts. They're neutral experts, but they have contracts with certain hospitals, and they'll perform the evaluations. If it's a custody and visitation case or a family offense case, I will help the attorney select a designated forensic evaluator, or sometimes they'll say, Judge, we'll defer to your judgment, or sometimes they'll consent on who to use, and we will refer the matter to someone who's board certified as a forensic evaluator. A psychologist or a psychiatrist, depending on the type of case it is or what we feel the needs are. And that person will evaluate the entire family and give us a recommendation back regarding issues of custody and or whether or not there's been abuse, whether they feel. Sometimes it's a child of tender ages and I can interview them, we can have a physical evaluation, and everything's inconclusive. So I need a forensic evaluator to help me determine, is the child fabricating, and if they are, why? Do they have mental health issues, or is somebody convincing them not to tell, or is someone convincing them to tell?
So complex. There's so much involved in what you do.
Exactly.
There really is, and there's no such thing as a judge school.
No. Well, actually, they do send us for training, but...
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Oh, we're responsible for continuing
Well,
our
I'm sure
education.
there is, but you can't say, look, I just graduated 4 years of judge school. I went
Right,
to judge
exactly.
you. And it was really, I mean, come on,
Exactly.
it's really funny when you think about it, because it's one of the most important positions in the land to be a judge. And yet, it's just a matter of experience through life and everything else that you've learned. It's very interesting. Talk to us about that. Why does a court need a probation investigation?
Sometimes.
And explain probation.
Okay, the Nassau County Department of Probation is also a terrific resource for my court and for the criminal courts as well. In family court, as I said, they help us at intake. They have probation officers that help people that are without attorneys prepare their petitions.
Mm-hmm.
And then down the road, on a custody case or a family offense case on occasion, more often in a custody and visitation issue, we'll ask for an investigation and report, because they will interview the family members. Some people live with relatives that are not litigants,
mm-hmm.
and we need to know that the children, if they go there to visit or live, will be safe and sound. And we need to know about the home environment. We need to know that the home is safe and sound. And they will do a home study. They will do a very thorough mental health evaluation, not a forensic evaluation, more of making sure that everybody is stable, working.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not working, why are they home? And just to make sure that the child, when they do go to visit, or
mm-hmm.
if we award custody, will, as I said, be safe.
What's the PEACE program? That's an interesting thing. When I've heard that phrase, I was thinking of, the Peace Corps or something. But obviously, we're not talking about that.
No. PEACE is an acronym for Parent Education and Custody Effectiveness. It is a program that was brought to Nassau County. It is now run throughout the state.
Mm-hmm.
I helped at its inception in Nassau County. And
that's great.
Yeah, it took a long time to get off the ground. And basically what it is a program to teach parents how not to drag the children through the muck and mire of divorce.
Oh, boy,
and
is that important.
It's divided into 3 sessions. The first session, the litigants come and a judge speaks to them, myself or one of the other many matrimonial judges or family court judges speaks mm-hmm. and explains what's going to happen, how what the divorcing process is about, what family court is about, and how not to involve the children and not to share with them when you come home from court, and how the children shouldn't be in school worrying that you went to court,
right.
Those kind of things. The second class is designed, it's run by a mental health professional. And then they break down the parents not together. You can come with your divorcing spouse or not. You can come in different sessions, mm-hmm. and they break down, and we have mental health professionals that speak to us about the parent, what you're feeling, your transitioning, your mental health, how to keep yourself above the divorcing process, mm-hmm. not to get down in the dirt. And
so that's a tough thing.
It's tough. And
it's so emotional, this whole thing. It's so fired up.
Exactly.
And you get one parent says, that dirty, I'm going to show him, I could just see the person get involved in the program. If they had open minds to begin with, they might not have been in this circumstance to begin with the divorce.
Exactly. And, sometimes yes, sometimes no. People can't always help their circumstances.
Right.
And the third session is devoted totally to the children.
Mm-hmm.
There's a videotape of children whose parents are going through the divorce and how they feel. How one parent doesn't meet their economic obligations and how that makes the child feel. Mm-hmm. How the child feels when the father drops the child off to the mom's house and the parents fight while the child's in the car, how that makes them feel. Just what a child feels just transitioning, going from one parent to the other. How, they get quiet when they come home and, they've had a great time with dad and now they're home with mom and they feel guilty. Because daddy doesn't live here, but I had a good time. Can I tell mom? Will that make her sad? And just everything that goes through their little minds, and mm-hmm. how the parents can help the children transition from being a family to being now a different type of family.
Right. So you help to be one of the people to coordinate this and to bring this program to fruition.
Yeah.
Correct?
In Nassau County, and now it's still run by wonderful people who have dedicated so much time to the children and the families of the county.
So then I could say you're a judge with a heart. You're
I
showing compassion and sympathy and an understanding.
Yes.
It's not a matter of just ruling on something. It's a matter of trying to understand so that fairness, justice, and support and help can be provided to the children.
Yes.
It's not a matter of the parent, it's the child.
Correct.
And I think that's fabulous. What are PIN's petitions?
PIN's petition is also an acronym. It stands for Persons in Need of Supervision. Children, the law recently changed than the last few years. Now it's children. It used to have a different age for boys and girls. Now it's everybody up to the age of 17.
Mm-hmm.
Kids that are out of control. They stop going to school. They don't listen to the rules in the house. Either the parent can bring the petition or the school.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a PIN's diversion unit, and part of Child Protective Service, part of Child Protective Services and Probation, and what they do is they offer services to the families, counseling, substance abuse. A lot of times what it is the child has a substance abuse or an alcohol addiction, and or they're involved in a gang. And it's how do we approach the child and the family and steer them in the right direction and get them not to have to accept the PIN's petition in the court.
Wow.
So,
we're almost out of time. First, at some point in the future, would you come back? Because,
absolutely.
I have plenty more questions to ask you, and obviously, you're the source to have this conversation with. In the next minute or so, can you discuss with me the concept of order of protection, and is it effective or not? Because that's you always hear this stuff.
I'm going to start with its effectiveness. It's effective if you use it.
Okay.
If you're a parent that comes to court because Child Protective Services said you have to get your spouse out of the house and you have to protect the children,
okay.
And then Child Protective Services, if I have a feeling the order's not being abided by, I'll send night staff out. And if they,
I mean someone to check to see if it's...
Exactly. Let's say the person has a substance abuse problem,
mm-hmm.
but the mom is scared because she has no means to support herself and
right.
no family here. They're
right.
from another country. They're here. They're barely in the country 6 months, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just using this as an example.
Right.
The
right.
mom's scared. She lets dad back in the house. But dad gets violent and has a temper when he drinks, and he's always drinking. He comes home intoxicated. The kids are scared. They hide in a closet. This is not a good thing.
No, this is not a good thing.
So we need to know. The order's as good as if people use it and use it to
so
its fullest.
So if you have this order of protection, you will have some law enforcement agency enforce it?
If you call 911 and say I have an order of protection and say, it's being violated, the person's here, they're not supposed to
right.
be here, or they're supposed to stay away if they're under the influence
right.
and they're home and they're intoxicated.
So
They'll come right away.
Police will come. The police
Absolutely.
will come and you have a paper you have to show or something?
We have a New York State registry, and it will come right up in the
computer.
police, right in the police car. They will be able to pick it up right away.
That's great.
As my clerk is typing away,
Boom.
the orders of protection go right into the state registry.
In the last 30 seconds, what is your greatest satisfaction of being a family court judge?
My greatest satisfaction is fixing a family. Fixing
a family and
yep.
keeping the family together.
Absolutely. I had a couple today that said they were reconciling. I can't tell you how happy I was. That's why they were withdrawing their petitions. It happens, and it's great.
Is it unusual?
No.
It's
no.
not unusual.
No.
So that puts a great big smile on your face. Look at that smile.
It helps. It absolutely helps. Sometimes they just have to go through the process to get better, to fix it.
So in going through the process, you could order them to go for counseling or therapy?
I can encourage them. Yep. They can be a stay-away order for protection to keep the peace, and there can be an exception except for family counseling.
That's fantastic.
Get them into a little anger management, get them into therapy, and we can get them back, and everybody will be happy again.
I think that's fabulous. I thank you for taking the time from your
incredibly
busy schedule.
Thank you.
Doctor, listen to me, doctor. I do that all the time. Judge Julian Eisman. I made you a doctor also. The doctor of the court.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking your time to come down to explain. And you'll come back again sometime?
I promise.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And I hope that you'll come back sometime also so you can get a chance to see and learn more interesting things on what goes on here on our own beloved Long Island. So, right now, Dr. Harvey Pass is saying so long for now. And whatever you do, do it with passion. Even if you're in the family court with Judge Eisman, do it with passion. And until then, we'll see you again next time. So long.
Thank you.
Great.